You ever wonder what it's like to lose someone you love? Not to death, but to betrayal? To realize the person you called family was never really on your side? My name's Antony Thompson, and this is my story. It's about my brother Jake and how he shattered my world. It's about pain, lies, and finding the strength to walk away. Settle in. This one's raw, and it's real. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a quiet suburb where maple trees shaded the sidewalks and kids raced bikes until the streetlights buzzed on. I was the eldest son of Mark and Susan Thompson. Dad taught math at the local high school, always hunched over a stack of papers or strategizing for the chess club. Mom worked part-time at the library, but her heart belonged to my younger brother Jake, who came along 3 years after me. Jake was the golden child, the kid who could do no wrong. Mom cooked his favorite lasagna, ironed his soccer jerseys, and expected me to help him with everything, homework, chores, you name it. "Antony, you're the big brother," she'd say, her voice firm but kind. "You've got to look out for Jake." I was a quiet kid, loved sci-fi novels, wore clunky glasses, and spent hours tinkering with computers. I didn't push back. I figured it was my job to keep the peace, even if it meant swallowing my own feelings. But deep down, I ached for the affection Mom poured onto Jake like it was nothing. Jake, though, he didn't care about my efforts. Instead, he made my childhood a living hell. Jake was loud, athletic, with Dad's quick temper and easy charm. I was the bookworm, the odd one out, and he seemed to hate me for it. His pranks started when I was 7 or 8, hiding my library books, poking fun at my glasses, or accidentally spilling juice on my homework. I'd find my pencils snapped in half, my backpack stuffed with wet leaves, or my favorite Star Wars action figure buried in the backyard. Annoying, sure, but I brushed it off. Kids tease, right? But Jake's games got meaner. When I was 10, I sat down for breakfast and scooped up a spoonful of cereal, only to find tiny pebbles mixed in. I froze, heart pounding, and dumped the bowl in the sink. I ran to Mom, expecting her to be furious. Instead, she chuckled. "Oh, Antony, it's just Jake being silly. Don't make a fuss." That moment stuck with me. It wasn't just the pebbles, it was knowing Mom wouldn't take my side. I started feeling like I didn't belong in my own house. School was no escape. A pack of older kids targeted me for being a nerd. They'd shove me in the halls, mock my A's, or trip me on the blacktop. I'd come home with scraped knees or a torn shirt, hoping for comfort. But Jake made it worse. He went to the same school, and instead of defending me, he joined the bullies. "Go on, push him. He's too weak," he'd yell, grinning like it was a game. One time, in 5th grade, they dumped dirt on me during recess. I limped home, fighting tears, and told my parents. Dad sighed. "You need to toughen up, son." Mom frowned at me. "Antony, what did you do to upset Jake?" Jake's words cut deeper than the bruises. We'd fight over stupid things, a TV remote, a forgotten chore, and he'd zero in on my insecurities. "You're such a loser," he'd sneer. "Why don't you just disappear? Nobody wants you here." I was 12, already wrestling with self-doubt, and hearing that from my brother was like a knife. I didn't tell anyone how much it hurt. I just buried it, deep, where no one could see. Middle school was even rougher. Jake and his buddies broke into my room one day and found my journal. I'd written about feeling unloved, about wishing Mom and Dad noticed me. They read it aloud at school, in front of everyone. I confronted Jake, my voice shaking. "Why would you do that?" He smirked. "It's a prank, loser. Get over it." I begged Mom to make him stop, to do something. "Siblings tease," she said, waving it off. "It's how you bond." Bond? All I felt was broken. The worst moment came when I was 13, at a 4th of July barbecue in our backyard. Jake, egged on by his friends, thought it'd be hilarious to wave a lit sparkler near my hair. I ducked just in time, sparks grazing my ear. My heart raced, and for once, Dad saw it happen. "That's enough, Jake," he barked, his face red. Mom tried to downplay it. "He's just playing, Mark." But Dad wasn't having it. He grounded Jake for a week and warned him, "One more stunt like that and you're in real trouble." Later that night, Dad pulled me into his study. "Antony," he said, his voice heavy, "I've been too hard on you. I thought Jake would grow out of this, but he's turning into a bully. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." I'd never heard Dad apologize before. It cracked something open in me. I told him everything: Jake's cruelty, the school bullies, how I felt invisible. Dad listened, his jaw tight, his eyes dark with guilt. The next day, he met with my principal to crack down on the bullying. Then he signed me up for karate at a local gym. "Learn to stand up for yourself," Dad said. "Not just with your fists, but with your heart." I was a scrawny kid, and the idea of fighting was laughable. But I threw myself into it, balancing classes with my schoolwork. Karate changed me. I got stronger, more confident. My shoulders squared, my head lifted. The bullies at school sensed it and backed off. One afternoon, when I was 14, Jake crossed a line. I'd been saving money from mowing lawns to buy a new sci-fi novel, Dune. He snuck into my room and stole it. I caught him in the driveway, about to bike off with his buddies. "Give it back," I said, my voice steady. Jake laughed. "What are you gonna do, cry to Daddy?" Something snapped. I swung, my fist connecting with his cheek. He stumbled back, shocked, and I grabbed my money from his pocket. Jake started bawling, which was almost funny after years of him playing tough. Mom rushed out, horrified. "Antony, how could you hit your brother?" she scolded. But when Dad got home, he heard my side, how Jake stole from me, and turned to Jake. "You're lucky Antony only punched you. Steal again, and you'll deal with worse." Jake threw a tantrum, expecting Mom to bail him out, but Dad held firm. After that, Jake stopped the physical stuff. But his verbal jabs didn't. He'd mutter "nerd" or "loser" when our parents weren't around. If I asked him a question, he'd ignore me or tell Mom to relay the message. I begged her to sit us down, to talk it out, but she refused. "I don't want to get in the middle," she'd say. I started counting the days until I could leave home. High school was my lifeline. I buried myself in studies, joined the robotics club, and aced my classes. My hard work paid off with a full scholarship to Ohio State University for computer science. Dad threw a small party to celebrate, with neighbors crowding our backyard, toasting with lemonade and cake. Even Mom seemed proud, though she fussed over Jake's soccer game the same day. Jake barely glanced at me, sulking in the corner with his headphones on. The day I left for college felt like breaking free. Columbus was only an hour from home, but it was a new world. I made friends who loved coding as much as I did, stayed up late debating Star Trek versus Star Wars, and felt the weight of my childhood lift. I wasn't the invisible kid anymore. I was Antony, the guy who could hold his own. In my sophomore year, I met Emily at a campus coffee shop. She was a psychology major, with a warm laugh and eyes that sparkled when she talked about her favorite books. We clicked instantly, bonding over the Matrix marathons and bad puns. Emily came from a tight-knit family in Cleveland, and I admired her values: loyalty, honesty, love. I fell hard, and she did too. When Emily got pregnant in our senior year, we didn't hesitate. We wanted to raise our kid together, married the right way. Our wedding was small, in a local park with fairy lights strung through the oak trees. My parents were thrilled, clapping me on the back, and Emily's family welcomed me like a son. I stood there, holding her hand, gazing into her eyes, thinking I'd found my forever. Our son, Noah, was born a few months later. Fatherhood changed me. I worked long hours as a junior software engineer to provide for us, coding until my eyes burned. But coming home to Noah's gummy smiles, his tiny fingers wrapping around mine, made every late night worth it. Emily and I were happy, building a life together. Family dinners, weekend trips to the zoo, bedtime stories. I thought we were unbreakable. But 3 years into our marriage, I found flirty texts on Emily's phone from a coworker, Tom. I confronted her, my heart in my throat. She broke down, admitting to a brief affair. Said it was a mistake, that she felt lonely while I worked overtime. I was devastated, my trust in her shattered. But I didn't want to lose our family. not when Noah was so young. We separated for a few months, went to counseling, and I chose to forgive her. The trust was fractured, but I told myself we could rebuild. I loved her, and I wanted Noah to grow up with both parents. 2 years later, Emily confessed to another betrayal, a one-night stand with an ex during a trip to her hometown. I was gutted. The wound from the first affair barely healed. But again, I stayed for Noah. We worked through it, or so I thought. Emily threw herself into our marriage, planning family vacations, cooking my favorite chili, surprising me with little notes in my lunch. For 4 years, things felt solid. I started to believe we'd survived the worst, that we were stronger for it. Then 3 months ago, everything changed. Emily sat me down one evening, her face pale, her hands twisting in her lap. "Antony," she said, her voice barely audible, "I've been lying to you. I've been having an affair for years, and Noah might not be yours." The room spun. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Shock, betrayal, rage, they hit me like a tidal wave. When I found my voice, I choked out one word. "Who?" She looked away, tears streaming, then whispered, "Jake. My brother. The person who'd tormented me my entire life. He'd slept with my wife, the mother of my son." I pressed her for answers, my hands shaking, my voice rising. She said it started years ago, during college, when I brought her home for Thanksgiving. Jake was cold to me, as always, but charming to her, all smiles and easy compliments. Emily wanted to fit in with my family, so she spent time with him and Mom, helping in the kitchen, playing board games. I'd told her about our toxic history, Jake's bullying, the sparkler, the journal. She thought she could help us reconnect, inviting him to hang out with us, movies at the mall, dinners at my parents' house, game nights in their basement. I was grateful, naive, thinking it was progress. I noticed Jake and I exchanged a few words, which was more than we'd managed in years. Emily would laugh at his jokes, challenge him at Mario Kart, and I thought, maybe this is what healing looks like. But behind my back, they grew close. Emily said it began with harmless flirting, Jake's teasing, his lingering glances. Then, one night when I was at a study group, they crossed a line. Emily said she felt guilty and left early, skipping New Year's with us. I'd begged her to stay, confused by her sudden distance, but she insisted on going home. When we found out she was pregnant, she wasn't sure who the father was. She chose me, she said, because I was reliable, the better man. That's why we got married. But the affair didn't end. They stayed in touch, meeting at hotels, lying about work trips. Half of Emily's business travel, for her marketing job, was cover for their getaways, weekends in Cincinnati, nights in Chicago. I asked why she married me if she wanted Jake. "I didn't want to break us," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "You're an amazing father. I thought I could stop, but the chemistry, I couldn't." Her words felt like acid, burning through me. I packed a bag that night, my hands trembling, my vision blurred with tears. Emily begged me to stay, falling to her knees, saying we could fix it, that Noah needed me. He might not even be mine. I snapped, and she crumpled, accusing me of cruelty. Maybe I was harsh, but I couldn't stay in a house built on lies. I drove to a motel, the hum of the highway drowning out her sobs, the neon sign flickering outside my window as I sat on a lumpy bed, staring at the wall. The next morning I drove to my parents' house, my stomach in knots. I sat them down in their living room, the same room where Jake and I used to build Lego castles, and told them everything. Jake and Emily's affair, the years of deceit, the possibility Noah wasn't mine. Mom's face went white, her hands clutching a throw pillow. Dad's fists clenched, his knuckles pale. Mom tried to defend Jake at first, her voice trembling. "He'd never do that to you, Antony. There must be a mistake." I shook my head, my jaw tight. I asked them to stay quiet, and called Jake right there, putting him on speaker. "Jake," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me, "I know about you and Emily." He laughed, a nervous edge to it, and denied everything. "You're crazy, man. She's lying." But when I told him Emily confessed, he turned on her. She came on to me, he sneered. I can't help it if women want me. I'm the better brother, Anton looking, better everything. I laughed, cold and bitter. You're pathetic, Jake, and I'm telling everyone. He mocked me, thinking he was untouchable. Good luck, I'm the golden child, no one'll believe you. But Mom and Dad heard every word, and their silence was heavier than any shout. Jake stammered, trying to backtrack, his voice rising in panic. Wait, I didn't mean, come on, it wasn't my fault. Dad took the phone, his hand shaking. Jake, Dad said, his voice low and furious, you've betrayed your brother and this family. You slept with his wife even after they were married. You're cut off. No college fund, no allowance, nothing. You're on your own. Jake went quiet, then started babbling, trying to salvage his image, but Dad hung up. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years, her eyes wet with tears. She'd always shielded Jake, called him her baby boy, but now she was silent, staring at the floor. After a long moment, she stood and hugged me, something she hadn't done since I was a kid. I'm sorry, Antony, she whispered, her voice breaking. I should have believed you. I should have seen him for what he was. It was the first time in years I felt her love, and I clung to it, even as my heart ached. I hired a lawyer the next week and filed for divorce. Emily fought dirty, demanding alimony since I earned more as a software engineer. She claimed she'd been a stay-at-home mom for years, that she deserved support. But her affair with Jake, combined with a paternity test, changed everything. The test confirmed Noah was Jake's son. That hit harder than the infidelity, harder than anything I'd ever felt. I'd raised Noah, changed his diapers, read him Goodnight Moon, cheered at his first soccer game. I'd tucked him in, kissed his forehead, promised to always protect him. And now he was a living reminder of Jake's betrayal, of Emily's lies. Emily begged me to stay in Noah's life, tears streaming down her face. He shouldn't suffer for my mistakes, she said. He loves you, Antony. But I couldn't do it. It wasn't about Noah. It was about survival. Every time I thought of him, I saw Jake's smirk, heard Emily's excuses. Seeing Noah would mean staying tied to them, and I needed a clean break, even if it tore me apart. I walked away, my heart splintering with every step, knowing I might never see that little boy again. I moved into a small apartment downtown, just a few blocks from my office. The place was bare, a couch, a bed, a desk, but it was mine. Being alone was strange after years of family life, but it grew on me. I threw myself into work, coding until my eyes burned, earning a promotion at my tech firm. Therapy became my anchor, a place to untangle the anger, grief, and guilt that churned inside me. I started running again, the rhythm of my sneakers on pavement giving me clarity, the cool Ohio air filling my lungs. I'd run along the Scioto River, watching the water glint under the morning sun, and think about everything I'd lost, my marriage, my son, my brother. But I also thought about what I'd gained, freedom, strength, a chance to rebuild. 2 weeks ago, Dad called with news that shook me. He and Mom were rewriting their will, leaving everything to me, about $2 million in assets, retirement funds, and life insurance. Jake would get $1, just to prevent him from contesting it legally. Dad was done with him, his voice hard when he spoke Jake's name. Even Mom, despite her soft spot, hadn't spoken to Jake since that day in the living room. Jake had tried to worm his way back. He showed up at their house a few times, banging on the door, begging for forgiveness, promising to change. They turned him away, Mom crying afterward, Dad's jaw set like stone. He made his choice, Dad said, and that was that. Then yesterday, Jake called me. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting, his name glowing like a warning. Against my better judgment, I answered. Antony, he said, his voice ragged, I'm sorry, I'm in deep trouble. I dropped out of college, couldn't afford it. Emily's hounding me for child support, and I'm working part-time at a gas station. I'm broke, man. Please talk to Mom and Dad, we're family. I laughed, sharp and bitter, the sound echoing in my apartment. Family? You slept with my wife, Jake. You got her pregnant. You don't get to call me family. He started crying, his voice breaking as he babbled about how everyone, our grandparents, cousins, friends, had turned on him. He said he was alone, that he'd learned his lesson, that he needed me. "You're not my problem," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "You made your bed, lie in it." I hung up, my hand shaking, the silence in the room heavier than ever. That call's been on my mind ever since. I hate Jake. Hate what he did, what he took from me. The years of bullying, the sparkler, the journal, the affair, it's a litany of wounds, each one deeper than the last. But hearing him cry, sounding so broken, it stirred something. Not forgiveness, not even close. Pity, maybe. A flicker of guilt. He's my brother, or he was. Should I talk to my parents? See if there's a way to help him without letting him back into my life? I've turned it over in therapy, dissected it on my runs, stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m. thinking about it. And I've decided, no. Jake's consequences are his own. He didn't apologize for the affair, didn't own his betrayal. He only called because he's desperate, not because he's changed. I've spent my life cleaning up his messes, taking his punishments, forgiving his cruelty, carrying his weight. I'm done. It's been 5 months since that call, and my life's moving forward. Dad and I go fishing every weekend, casting lines into the Olentangy River, laughing over old stories like buddies. He's softer now, more open, like he's making up for lost time. Mom still misses Jake. I can see it in her eyes sometimes, but she's respected Dad's rule not to contact him. She started baking again, bringing me pies when I visit, and we talk about everything but Jake. I heard through a cousin that Jake and Emily are living together, raising Noah in a cramped apartment. Jake's working as a mechanic, scraping by, his dreams of college long gone. I don't ask about him, and my parents don't bring him up. I got another promotion at work, and my salary's better than ever. I've upgraded my apartment, added a bookshelf for my sci-fi collection, even hung some art on the walls. I'm not dating, too soon for that, but therapy's helping me rebuild trust. Piece by piece, I'm learning to believe in people again, to believe in myself. Some people judge me for cutting Noah out. They call it cold, say he's just a kid who didn't ask for this. I get it, and it hurts. But it's not about Noah. It's about keeping Jake and Emily out of my life, about protecting the fragile peace I've built. Every time I think of Noah, I see Jake's face, hear Emily's lies, and the pain rushes back. Maybe one day I'll be ready to see him, to build something new, a birthday card, a phone call, a visit. But not now. Not yet. I'm free now, free to heal, to live for myself. Jake's shadow doesn't loom over me anymore. The kid who ducked sparklers, who hid his tears, who forgave too easily, he's gone. I'm Antony, and I'm enough. I've spent too long carrying Jake's weight, and I'm finally letting go. If you're listening and you've got a story like mine, hold on to your truth. Sometimes the hardest thing is walking away, but it's also the bravest. Thanks for hearing me out.